Every NVIDIA GPU owner, whether you have a GTX 1650 or an RTX 4090, has this panel installed right now. Most people have never touched it. Others have copied random settings from the internet without understanding what they actually do. Today, we go through every single setting that matters for gaming. I'll tell you what to change, what to leave alone, and which settings only exist on newer RTX cards. So no matter what GPU you're running, you'll know exactly where you stand. So let's start. Before touching anything, click Restore Default at the top right. If you've had random tweaks applied from all the guides, this clears all of it. We build from a clean base. Takes 2 seconds and saves you a lot of headaches. First up, image scaling. This is off and leave it that way. Image scaling is NVIDIA's older upscaling method for games that don't support DLSS. On a GTX card, DLSS isn't available, but even on RTX cards, if your game supports DLSS or FSR, those are better options than this. Leave it off and use your game's built-in upscaler instead. Ambient Occlusion. Keep it off at the driver level. Ambient Occlusion is the shading effect that adds soft shadows in corners and around objects to make scenes look more 3D. The problem is NVIDIA's driver level version doesn't even work in DirectX 12 games, which are most modern titles. Just control it inside the game where it works properly. Anisotropic Filtering. Leave it at application controlled. This setting sharpens textures at angles and distances, like a road stretching into the horizon. Modern games handle this internally at 8x or 16x already. Overriding it from the driver can conflict with the game's own rendering pipeline and cause visual glitches, so leave the game in control. Antialiasing FXAA mode setting transparency. All of these should be off or application controlled, exactly as they are here. I want to be very direct. Do not touch these. These settings were designed for the DirectX 9 era, games from 2008 to 2013. Every modern game uses TAA, DLSS, or FSR for anti-aliasing, and those are all handled inside the game engine. If you force AA from the driver on top of that, you break the game's upscaling and the image actually looks worse. The only exception is very old legacy games that have no built-in AA. For those, you would set a per game profile, but for everything modern, leave these alone. Antialiasing Gamma Correction on your panel is set to on. Leave that as is. It's a minor color space correction that makes driver level AA slightly more accurate if you ever do use it on legacy games. Background application max frame rate. This caps how fast the GPU renders when a game is minimized or in the background. Setting this to something like 20 or 30 FPS saves power and keeps your PC cooler. When you tab out, it does nothing when the game is your active window. On a budget card like the GTX 1650, this is worth setting to 20. It reduces heat and power draw while you're alt tabbed. Go ahead and set this to 20. CUDA GPUs. Leave on all. This tells the driver which GPU handles CUDA compute tasks. If you only have one GPU, all is correct, and you don't need to touch this. DSR, Dynamic Super Resolution. Both factors and smoothness are off, and leave them that way. DSR renders your game at a higher resolution than your monitor and then downscales it. It is a way to get super sampling quality on a standard monitor. On a GTX 1650, this would absolutely tank your FPS. Leave it off. On a high-end RTX 4080 or 5080 or even 4090 with headroom to spare, it becomes interesting, but that's a separate video. Low latency mode. One of the two most important settings in this whole panel. Change it from off to on right now. Here is what it does. By default, your GPU queues up several frames in advance before sending them to your screen. That buffer adds delay between your mouse movement and what you see. We call that input lag. Low latency mode shrinks that queue so your inputs reach the screen faster. We're talking 10 to 20 milliseconds less input lag. In a shooter, that is absolutely felt. Your aim feels tighter, more responsive. Set it to on, not ultra. Ultra can hurt FPS when your CPU is already working hard, which on a GTX 1650 setup is a real consideration. And if you have an RTX card and your game supports NVIDIA Reflex, games like Valorant, Warzone, Apex, Fortnite, set low latency mode back to off and use Reflex inside the game. Reflex works at the engine level and is more accurate than the driver setting. Don't run both at the same time. Power management mode. It is already set correctly on my card to prefer maximum performance, which is exactly what you want. If yours is on optimal power or adaptive, change it now. By default, your GPU is allowed to slow its clock speed down mid-game to save power, and that causes micro stutters and random FPS dips during gunfights. Maximum performance tells the GPU to stay at full clock speed the entire time you're gaming. This is the single biggest fix for inconsistent frame time and stuttering that's not caused by a hardware problem. Shader cache size. On my GTX 1650, this shows driver default, which on older drivers means the panel doesn't expose a size selector. Leave it at driver default. What the shader cache does is store compiled shaders on your SSD so the GPU doesn't recompile them every session. This is what eliminates those random freezes when you enter a new area in an open world game. The cache is active even on driver default. It just manages itself automatically. On newer drivers and RTX cards, you'll see specific size options: 4GB, 10GB, unlimited. Set it to unlimited. Modern AA games easily exceed the 4GB default cap, and when that cap is hit, the driver deletes old shaders to make room, and that brings the stutters back. Unlimited lets it grow as needed. You'll use 5 to 10GB of storage, which is completely worth it. Max frame rate. Leave it off here, please. Control your frame cap inside the game instead. In-game limiters are engine aware and more precise. The only time you'd use the driver level cap is if a specific game has no in-game frame limiter at all, which is rare in 2026. MFAA, leave it off. This is another legacy anti-aliasing method from the Maxwell Pascal GPU era. Same story as the other AA settings. Modern games don't benefit from this, and it can conflict with their own rendering. Just leave it off. Now the texture filtering section. And this is where you can actually pick up some free FPS, especially on a GTX card. Texture filtering anisotropic sample optimization is currently off on my card. Just turn this on. It lets the driver optimize how texture samples are taken at angles. It slightly reduces texture quality at extreme distances in exchange for GPU headroom. At normal gaming distances, you cannot see the difference. We're talking about free performance. Texture filtering quality is set to high quality right now. Change this to high performance. This is one of the biggest changes you can make on a budget GPU. High quality means the GPU is doing more precise maths on every texture sample every frame. High performance cuts some of that precision in a way that is invisible at gaming frame rates and normal screen distances, but it gives the GPU meaningfully less work. On a GTX card, this is generally frees up headroom for more frames. Texture filtering trilinear optimization is already on, and that's correct. Leave it on. It's a small efficiency setting that lets the driver blend map levels more efficiently on always. Texture filtering negative LOD bias. Leave it at allow. This controls whether textures can appear sharper than their native resolution through a driver check. Allow means games can use it if they want to. The clamp prevents it. Allow is fine for gaming. Threaded optimization. Leave it on auto. This tells the driver whether to use multiple CPU threads when preparing graphics commands. Auto means the driver decides per game, which is the smartest setting. Forcing it on for all single threaded games can actually cause problems. Just leave it auto. Triple buffering off. This only does anything useful when VSync is enabled. Since we're turning VSync off, this setting has zero effect, so leave it off. Vertical sync already off on my card, and that's correct. VSync or vertical sync fixes screen tearing but adds 16 to 50 milliseconds of input lag in the process. That is a huge penalty for competitive gaming. Leave it off globally. If tearing bothers you, cap your FPS in game 3 to 5 frames below your monitor's refresh rate. That reduces tearing significantly without the lag penalty of VSync. If you have a G-Sync or FreeSync monitor, enable G-Sync in the display section of the panel. Set VSync to on here in the driver. Turn it off inside the game and cap your in-game FPS 3 below your refresh rate. So, for example, if you have 144 Hz monitor, set it to 141. Okay, 141. This combination gives you tear-free gaming with G-Sync and zero input lag. Here is the move most people never discover: program settings. Instead of applying everything globally, you can create separate profiles for individual games. Your global settings stay as your safe baseline, and per game profiles handle exceptions. This is powerful because competitive games and open world games have completely different needs. So here is everything we changed: background up, frame rate 20, low latency mode on, power management prefer maximum performance, texture filtering, anisotropic sample optimization on, texture filtering quality, high performance, everything else left at default or application. That's it. No fake placebo tweaks, no register gambling, just the settings that actually change how your GPU behaves with a clear reason behind everyone. If this video helped you, please hit that like button. It genuinely pushes the video for others, maybe they will need it, and subscribe for more guides like this, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you stay till the end, let me know in the comment, and have a good day in the next one.